All right, hello and welcome to another episode of The Grateful Gamer. This is my fourth recording, and I still haven't had my third episode uploaded yet. And it's a brand new name that my sister came up with, and I did talk about that a little bit in the previous episode. Hopefully, the heater in the background right now isn't super loud out of the microphone. I hope the background noise isn't too bad. It shouldn't be. But I don't know. Sometimes it's weird, right? It depends on the speakers, the headset. Everybody's got their own types of audio thing going on, that kind of thing. So I'm just like, oh, I don't know how to, because like it could be fine for me and it could suck for someone else. Anyways, this episode is an interesting one for me. I have a couple things to say before I get like into the actual topic, or the main topic to get started. The episode that I wanted to talk about this episode was inspired by a headline I came across this morning. It was actually kind of something I was talking about a few days ago. I made a post on Facebook and I was like, I kind of want to start doing my idea when I first thought of it was like I want to do it like in today's headlines or in today's news or whatever. Um, and I haven't jumped on that yet because this was something I actually tried before, not even tried before. I did this before for like probably a couple months, and then I just kind of got sick of it personally because it was more related to gaming news and not something I always cared about, and that's kind of a part of journalism too. If you do gaming journalism, you always, no matter what, it's just a part of the work of it. You will always end up having to write something that you don't care about. I mean, I guess it depends. I don't know. In my experience, that's just how it was. Like if you're a gaming journalist, you would like no matter what, a part of the job is writing about things you don't care about. So it definitely takes the fun out. It takes the passion out. Um, just for an example, just having to share or write about a new news thing that's happening for a game that you're not interested in. Just as an example, like a very small thing. It's not a big deal. But that's just a part of it. So like it was probably years back. I had done like a weekly gaming news thing. I forget what I called it, but it was something like that, weekly gaming news. And now that I'm getting into recording podcast stuff, and it's actually been uh just so many things. It's been fun. It's been a relief. It's been more natural for me. There's a lot of different things that go on, which is why I want to continue doing it. So I hope you enjoy it with me. I truly do. um, but yeah. So one of my first thoughts was I did two episodes, man, and then immediately after doing my second episode of this specific recording, this podcast, The Grateful Gamer, I was like, man, I want to do this every day, like I really do. Uh, and part of that, my thought was, well, I don't always know what to specifically talk about. Oh, it's real. Oh my gosh, I forgot to tell you what this episode is going to be about. This episode, I'm sorry. This episode is specifically, I'm going to start with when I get to it after I describe everything that I've already rambled on about. I wanted to talk about the easy difficulty in video games, and as a part of that, difficulty, like just generally difficulty in video games. Um, that's the main topic to get started with. So, but before I get into that, I was also explaining other things. So my bad, man. Yeah, quite a bit of a ramble today. I will, well, I won't say that. I will. Now you're gonna wonder, right? This is all recording, right? You gotta remember, I do not edit my stuff, so they would be better, of course, if I did, because then I could cut out like really stupid parts where I ramble or say really dumb things that are just completely unnecessary. But I'm pretty buzzed. I'm not like super buzzed. I'm buzzed. And real quick, look, man, I am not an angry drunk. Okay, I'm only reality makes me angry. That's the only thing that makes me angry is reality. So I remember some people would some people would see me because well, that's another story and I don't want to get into that, but I will. Look, man, like I actually, for there's a reason I like to get high and buzzed or whatever, and it's because it helps, man. My gosh. And sometimes I understand why some people, if they hadn't seen me in the right context or whatever, because even like, for example, just real quick, if I am high or buzzed, if you get me talking about real life, it will make me angry. I might have I'll probably, if I'm buzzed or high, I'd probably have like a different kind of anger, not quite as deeply angry as I am when I'm sober. anyways, no, so as far as the podcast goes, um, I would love to do this daily. I really would. So one of my ideas when I first thought about this was like, well, and the reason I thought about this was because I was like, this could be helpful for me as someone who wants to do a daily podcast and couldn't really think of the ideas for it. One thing I do all the time is I check the news. I check gaming news every single day. I am constantly aware of a lot of things. I'm not aware of every single thing, but I'm in it, man. Like, I love video games. It's my thing, man. I freaking love video games. So you know, I don't know, man. I'm always looking out for stuff, right? So one of my first thoughts when I first originally thought like I would really love to do this daily, I was like, well, what would I talk about? You know, which is such a weird thing. It's such a weird thing to me because I never not think about video games for the most part. Like, just generally speaking, there is never a day that goes by where I'm not thinking about video games. Okay, there are plenty of other things I think about as well, things that I would not want to talk about, and I end up talking about anyways. Especially after through 2020, I did talk about a lot of reality crap that I didn't want to talk about, and I still do now. Anyways, but there isn't a single day that goes by that I don't think about video games. That I don't love video games. That is just a major part of. I mean, that's my deepest passion. It has been my life, my entire life. I mean, I have other passions as well, but video games is number one and has been, you know. So, but my first thought was like, man, what am I gonna talk about every day though? Like, even if I try to go for just a single hour every day, like, what would I talk about? So, I'm not trying to bore you to death or anything. I'm just, I'm talking, man. I'm just chatting. So, but the thing that turned me off about doing the headline thing, my first thought was like, I was trying to think of what I would do, right? Like, what can I do if I were to do a daily podcast? Like, I know I could do a daily thing where I just browse the headlines, gaming headlines, because that's what I actually do. That is actually like a part of my all day life. Every few hours I'm looking for if there are new headlines, and the reason I specifically look at headlines is because I'm looking for articles that I'm interested in. I don't click every headline. That's why I browse headlines. I'm browsing the main topic, and then if there's one I like, then I'll be like, oh, okay, let me go check this out. So one of the problems with that, though, as far as doing it daily, is, I mean, very often there will be a day where none of the headlines interest me. So today, just so you know, I'm working towards it in my mind. I'm planning this out, and what I would like to do is I would like to start getting into doing a daily podcast, but I can't do that quite yet because I do still have to figure out what I would want to talk about daily. So right now I do have this will be I don't know, a couple episodes. I have a couple episodes prepared to upload, and I'm because right now I'm basically doing the same thing I do with me and my sister. I'm doing weekly upload. That way, if I don't have content in between that week, like I can't, I don't want to go promising anybody like, hey, I'm gonna do a daily podcast, and then end up going a whole week or 2 weeks without doing one because I just couldn't figure out what to talk about, which is kind of weird. It's like I said, that's why it's weird to me, because I'm like, because there isn't a single day that goes by where I don't think about video games, but they're very random, just whatever thoughts. It's not usually something specific that would give me some deep topic to talk about. So I just love video games is all there is to it. It's a very general, like, I could sit here and talk about an hour about, oh, I just love video games, you know what I mean? Like, I do want to kind of, if I can, at least have a topic. Like today I have a topic to start with. My previous episode I got done recording yesterday was initially about teamwork and multiplayer, and it ended up being a far more about like generally multiplayer games. Because after I was talking about teamwork, I was like, I don't want to ramble and rant for like an hour just being pissed off at crappy teammates, when that's just not really the case. Is there's a lot of bad players for sure. But anyway, so my point is like, I start with a topic and then I kind of see what happens. So today The teamwork thing was interesting. I came across that for a specific reason, and then today I came across this topic that I want to talk about today. And this is actually a very interesting thing to me because this is something I grew into. Now, this was a headline I came across, and this is the headline says, "Sorry, but I'm here to defend easy mode," which I thought was really funny because the second I read that, I understood not only why it was a headline, but I was also like sad that like this is the reality is that people feel like they have to defend something. It's just like you shouldn't and I actually, my comment, I literally responded. This was my comment. It was LOL. It starts with LOL because I always type LOL when I laugh in my head. Okay, and a lot of people make fun of people in real world or just online. They'll be like, "Oh, you didn't really laugh." Like, dude, look, trust me, man, my head is cracking up, man. Like I am laughing. All right, if I'm not laughing out loud, like really, I'm definitely laughing inside of my head. You know what I mean? So, so I type LOL a lot, and I know it's a bit excessive, but when I think something's funny, that's what I type. Even if I didn't literally laugh out loud, like I will type LOL because I did think it was funny. So, anyway, so my comment on this article about defending easy mode was LOL. Nobody should have to defend easy mode, but I get ya. As a gamer that used to play games on hard as a first time playthrough, nowadays I prefer just playing a game on easy and just having fun, screwing around, and generally just enjoying it. And that was my comment. A little small short paragraph, and everything there is to the point, and there's of course, a little there could of course be more details there. I was just very, I'm blunt in a not asshole way, because like Ace, the reason I say that because like most of the time, like when somebody's blunt, it's kind of rude. But the way I see it personally, the word blunt is just being straightforward, basically, right? You know what I mean? I like. There's, we all have our own definitions and our own whatever. I mean, I don't know. Maybe we probably shouldn't. I mean, that's the whole point of words having definitions, But it's also a part of slang. We have our own way that we treat a word and stuff like that. And then there's, of course, the general way that society treats a word. So, whatever. But for me, blunt is just basically just straightforward. It's the same thing. Blunt and straightforward to me mean the same thing. But I do understand, and I will sometimes, depending on the context, I'll say it's more like I would use the two different terms or phrases. I would say that's straightforward, or I would say that's blunt, because in most cases blunt is a little bit more rudish, and it doesn't mean it's meant to be. So anyways, yeah, so I thought this was a cool article, a cool headline to come across, because this is actually something I felt for a long time, and I never gave it a whole ton of thought because it became a regular part of my gaming years ago. Not like a really long time ago, but at least a few years. It could have been several years. Time is, I just don't follow time anymore, but it's been a while. Okay, it's been a while. But especially when I was younger. Now I didn't start this way. When I first started gaming, I just played on normal all the time. And of course, when I started gaming, they didn't even have difficulty modes. The difficulty was just the game. You know what I mean? Like if you're old like I am, you remember that. Like games did not have difficulty modes. It was just you just play the game. Like Mario Brothers didn't have a difficulty mode. I think those still don't have difficulty modes actually. Well, now they let you choose characters, and depending on the character, you have like an easier time, right? Like in the new Marios. But no, I mean there was a time where difficulty modes didn't even exist, and whatever. So. There was a point, it was probably on PlayStation 1, I'm guessing. Probably. I don't remember, it was so long ago, but probably in the PlayStation 1 years. When I think it was just through inspiration and suggestion of friends, just generally talking about video games and school and with friends and all that kind of stuff. And I started, I don't remember, I wish, I kind of, in a sort of way, I wish I could remember like who inspired me to start playing games on hard difficulty, but it was just more like a casual conversation that we, just came up, and I was like, you know what, I'm actually going to try that, because I mean, look, man, when you play games for so long, it depends on the game, and times are different too. It's like I said, there were times when games didn't have difficulties, like at all. So there depends on the game style, the game type, the genre, all these kinds of things. They do matter. They do change on how you will experience a game and the types of difficulties that they will have. There was a time though where I was just so good at games, right? I just love video games. I played them all. I was so good. I did wasn't no such thing as a challenge at that point. It was just having so much fun playing them all, and I loved destroying them. Like just wrecking all the games, and it didn't mean they sucked or anything. It was just I'd played them so much that I was just I knew exactly what to do on the next implementation or whatever. It was either the different game that had the same kind of gameplay or the sequel, and all that kind of stuff, whatever. And then finally, after kind of a suggestive thing from a friend or just a co-gamer in school, one day I remember I just remember it was something I'd heard in school, and somebody was saying like, "Yeah, I always play on hard now," and I was like, "Oh." And I don't know, it just hit me that time, and I was like, I never really thought of that. So I started doing the same thing. There was years, I went at least 5 years playing every new game I ever played on hard. That was the first thing I would do. The first thing I would do would switch the game to hard mode, the hard difficulty, and then play. And at that time, hard was the hardest difficulty. There was no master, no elite, or whatever they have now, right? It was easy, normal, hard. And even before that, even before easy, normal, hard existed, it was normal or hard, or easy or normal, right? They didn't used to have like all these different difficulty options like we do now. Usually, depending on the game. There used to once difficulty started being offered, it was literally two options, and then it became three, and now it's like anywhere from 5 to 10, I don't know, whatever. But so at the time, hard was the hardest difficulty, and I had done that for a long time. I played all my games on hard. I'll never forget that. I wish I kind of like the one thing that's funny is like I'll never forget that fact that I would play all the games on hard if it was an option. But I can't even remember like which games I played. It didn't matter because it was all of them. Um, and I don't remember when exactly that changed. I think it's just my game type changed. Went back into games that didn't have that specific difficulty. For example, Diablo 2. You know, got in Diablo 2, got in other games like that, World of Warcraft. Before, especially in vanilla World of Warcraft, it didn't have like a difficulty, right? You know what I mean? Like, so just going into different game types, you're not always going to have that difficulty option. So, so I can't remember specifically when I kind of got off playing in hard mode, but eventually I went back into just playing other game types and playing on normal again and stuff. And I'll tell you what, it's the reason I want to talk about this because I thought it was so funny because this for me this happened like 2 or 3 years ago, possibly 4 years ago, right? Like it's been a little while since I've been playing games on easy mode. And the main reason for that is not because I find the games too hard. I don't. I don't. I mean, for the most part, the reason I switched is because there were just so many parts in these different games. On normal, it's not so bad, but I mean, especially when, well, yeah, there's so much that goes into this. So, it's not just that there are parts in a game, for example, even on normal or whatever, it's not just that you'll always encounter certain parts, different areas of the game, or specific boss fight or whatever, where it's just annoying as hell. You know what I mean? I'm sure like whatever. I can't specifically point one out right this moment or anything, but there's always just like a boss fight or a specific gameplay scene, stage or whatever, where it's just like more difficult than others for no reason at all. It's just so random, and you're just like, what the hell? But it's not just that. It's not just that why I switched back to easy. I mean, one of the main reasons, for me personally, and I'm sure it's different for everybody, one of the like I would say the main reason that I switched to playing easy instead of normal, which is like it's kind of weird, right? Because normal is easy. Normal difficulty is easy. Okay, let's like it is. Like I mean, I guess it depends on the player too, right? For me, as a gamer who's been gaming, for freaking nearly 40 years, normal is I don't need to lower the difficulty. So for me, the main reason that I do it is because I do play a lot of games, like a lot. And sometimes, very often, you know, probably half the games I play, I'm just trying them. Like, I just want to check it out. I don't actually specifically care about playing that game. Some of it looks interesting. I'm kind of like, well, I don't really want to play it, but I could try it out. Like, sure. And that's a big part of it. It's not the only reason, but that is a very big part of why I lowered the difficulty to easy, because I just want to check the game out. I just want to experience what the actual experience is without getting one or two shot, depending on the game. Usually that doesn't happen on normal, but it depends on the game. Uh, you know. So yeah, I just thought it was such an interesting headline. I thought it was cool. I thought it was funny because I had forgotten about this. I've been playing games on easy for quite a while. It depends on the game. There are still plenty of games right now, especially if it's a game I'm like really interested in. Like, for example, Watch Dogs Legion. I did not like lower the difficulty to easy, especially because I'm so used to Watch Dogs the series. Like, I loved 1 and 2. I was like, I'll leave the difficulty on normal. I mean, I actually, my second playthrough, I was playing on, permadeath mode, which is definitely, oh my gosh, that can be annoying. Not because it's like overly difficult, but because when your character dies, you lose them, and you get attached to these characters because, like, you spend, like, in that specific game, you spend all this time trying to find, like, this cool character that you really like a lot, and then you get him, and then you get them killed, and it's like, you son of a... So that's a little different. Yeah, no, so there are plenty of games that I would still, it's mostly, like I said, if it's a game that I know that for a fact I want to play that right now, it's a game that I know that I'm interested in, I usually just play it normal, no problem. But if it's a game I want to try, the game I'm trying out, I'm checking out, I'm not sure if it's even anything I'll enjoy, I will put that sucker on easy. And then, I mean, another thing that's a part of that is some games, it's just really weird how they are. Like, I'll give you an example. A Rage, for example, I believe early on, like, I started on normal. I started Rage on normal. And Rage 2. Rage 2. I freaking love that game. Oh my gosh, dude, I love Rage 2. I started that game on normal, and it was kind of a pain in the butt. Like, I was annoyed, and I was like, and I remember thinking, like, in my head, I was like, I want to keep playing this, but this is just kind of stupid. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to pop it down to easy. So I popped it down to easy, and I kept playing it. It definitely made it smoother, And then once I leveled up, I upped the difficulty again. And I think I almost put it on, like, the hardest difficulty, too, eventually. Because I beat the game. I got super far in the game, and I was like, damn, this is a little too easy. But I was already on normal and stuff. But yeah, it's kind of weird. I've noticed I didn't used to notice that about games, because I think originally when I would play games like that, when it would be tough early on until you level up, I would just push through it. I would just struggle through it. And now I'm just like, nah, I'm just gonna lower it to easy. That's the difference, right? So there are games like that too, where, like, if you level up, you get more powerful guns, you level up your guns, whatever. If a game offers that, that's kind of how it starts. When you start out at the beginning, you're very underpowered. So it takes some time. It takes a little bit of grinding and playing through the campaign and the story and the different missions before you level stuff up, and then you become godlike and stuff. So that's the main difference for me, is just patience. I just no longer have the patience for that. I also don't have the need or the urge to struggle through that gameplay, because the biggest reason for that, I've already been through that. I've already been through that gaming experience. So it's such an interesting thing to think about it that way too, because like, I completely understand when people be like, you play a game on easy, what's wrong with you? Like, you pansy, like, I totally understand that mentality, because I'm pretty sure I felt the same way when I used to start games on hard mode. So, things change and whatever, and so it's just funny and interesting. In that kind of perspective, kind of a point of view, because I totally get it. I really do get it. At the same time, it's funny to me, because I believe Medvev was one of my good buddies that would make fun of me for playing games on easy, and I'm sure others have too. But I'm just like, look, dude, I'm just playing. I just want to play the game. I just want to play the game, and here, check this out. This is what's a trip to me, and this actually kind of makes me mad about difficulties in video games, all right? This is also, man, check this out. This drives me nuts. This pisses me, oh my gosh. Okay, so difficulties in video games, all right? Now, talking about easy, normal, hard, and stuff, right? Dude, you know what really pisses me off? My gosh, man. Oh my gosh. So, most games, 9 out of 10, if not 9.5 out of 10 games, if you put a game on hard difficulty, it literally just kills you faster, right? Like, it depends on how it goes. Most of the time, enemies have more health and you have less health. And then sometimes you just have less health while the enemies have the same health. Um, but basically what it just comes down to, if you up the difficulty, you just die faster. Game mechanics don't change. You don't have to learn new ways to play. It's all exactly the same. You just die so much faster. I can't stand that, dude. It drives me nuts. That is to me, look, and this is something I had to learn over many years of playing these games. This isn't something I used to feel. I'm pretty sure, like, when I first started playing games, on every game that I started playing on a hard difficulty, I probably thought that was cool. And because that's a part of the challenge, for sure. Right? Nowadays, for me, it's not. Nowadays, for me, like, just dying faster is not a challenge. That's just straight up stupid and annoying. But I have no doubt that when I first started playing games on hard difficulty, and just the fact that I would die faster was the challenge. So, I understand if people feel that way, right? Like, I totally get it. It's just no longer a thing to me. Like, now I disagree with it. Now I'm like, nope. Nope, it's just because I've played for so long. It's because I played these difficulties for so long. I've been through it all, man. And nowadays, being an old ass bastard, I want difficulty to mean something. I want it to change the way the game plays. And I understand that that's not an easy thing to do, not only just for so many reasons. And one of them being the fact that it can ruin the gaming experience. It can, because there's no reason that you shouldn't have to learn how to play a game on normal and easy, even easy mode, right? Like, even on easy mode. Now, for example, even on easy difficulty, I would still prefer to have to go through all the mechanics, the same mechanics that I would have to go through on normal or hard. I just don't want to die in one shot. That's literally the only thing. For me personally, I just don't want to die in one single hit. I'm just like, seriously, dude, one mistake? Really? So I gotta start this whole damn thing over again every freaking time? I hate that so much. Now, the funny thing that's interesting about it, I just remembered something. I played a game called No Straight Roads recently. I was giving it a try. I loved the story. Oh my gosh, it was so cool. And I wasn't expecting it to be as good as it was. And I didn't even get far. I got like a half hour in, man. I got to the first real boss, and then I just was like, eh. And the main reason, I'm just not in the mood, right? But the main reason specifically for that, and this isn't the only game that's happening. I've played many games where this happened, where I'll get to a boss, and I've learned the boss fight, but the boss, like, I'm sure, like, this, right? I've learned the boss fight. The boss fight mechanics do not change, but you literally have to spend like half an hour fighting that boss with the same one or two game mechanics because they just gave it way too much health. Right? You know what I mean, right? Isn't that so damn annoying? Like, it would be so cool if the phases changed, which actually that game did change phases. It did. Which I thought was funny. So specifically to that game, the first two, I think there was two stages first that I had to, they were not super hard. I quickly learned them and I quickly got through them. And then the final phase, he gets super final form, ultimate final boss form. And I was like, whoa, that is so cool. And then I saw how much health he had, and I was fighting him, and I was like, no, dude, no. He had way too much health. It was ridiculous. So I was like, you gotta be kidding me, because I loved the stages. Like, I actually loved the way you can go from stage 1, stage 2, and then ultimate final form. I was like, whoa, it's amazing. And then I saw how much health I straight up gave up during the middle of that fight. Like, I started that fight, and I was like, no. And it's mostly because I wasn't in the mood. That's just straight up. I was playing the game, and I was like, no. No. I'm not gonna sit here and spend like another 10 to 15 minutes doing just this new mechanic just because they gave this boss too much health. Like, you can see that right away. You can always see that right away when you start fighting a boss and you see how little damage you do to them. And it depends on the game too, right? Because like I said, sometimes when you encounter a boss and the first stage is like really difficult because you have to get to a point where it's like, oh, now you're powerful and now you can, you've damaged its shields or whatever, and you can get further. So there is the opposite of that as well. Like sometimes the start of the fight is really tough, and then once you get to a certain point, then it becomes much easier. But then there's the opposite where like it starts really easy and it's kind of teaching you the little mechanics, and you got to figure this out, and it's really easy to get through it quickly. And then the final form is just takes too long. It's like, oh, son of a. So mostly for me on that specific one, I was a little bit mad at myself because I did want to play it more. The story seemed so cool. I'm talking about No Straight Roads, I believe is the name of the game. It's a music game. Not It's kind of a music beat game, but it's also like more. It's a hybrid music beat and action hack and slash game. It's pretty neat, but I really like the story, man. It was actually really cool. I just wasn't in the mood. I was not in the mood. This was a rental I got from GameFly. I just wasn't in the mood to keep it longer, and I was like, screw it. I'm just gonna send it back. But that boss fight was the reason, and it wasn't because it was hard. It was just because I was like, I don't want to do this, man. Nah. Like, nah. So yeah, so balancing, very much like pacing between, for games, balancing difficulty and story and cinematics and gameplay. Like that's definitely something I've come to appreciate and understand and respect. It's got to be a really hard thing to pull off. And it also pisses me off when it's done badly, like yeah, I talked about this in the previous episode a bit. Was that? Oh, no. Oh, I forgot. Yeah, I haven't uploaded my third episode yet. So episode 2 was when I talked a bit about game pacing for story and cinematics and stuff like that. So, so I actually kind of, it's such a weird thing because like I didn't used to think this way. I didn't used to think this way. I used to just play games and be mad at the stupid stuff and love the good stuff. And now I kind of, it's weird. It's really weird because in a small sense, like I'm not an analytical person. Like because I think most of the time when you analyze stuff, you're kind of judging something in a sense, right? Because you're analyzing it. I'm just more, I have more understanding and respect for why it would be so difficult to pull these certain kinds of balancing things off, Now, for example, part of the difficulty thing, this will never not make me mad. And I was saying this, I was saying this earlier. So, I kind of understand why difficulties don't change mechanics. Some games do, right? But it's so incredibly rare. For example, one of the games that changes difficulty mechanics, gameplay mechanics, and how you have to learn how to play it is Nex Machina. It's a House Marquee game. They did Resogun and Stardust something, and some other stuff there. And they were also working on They did a new PS5 game. Oh, I remember when I first saw it, it looked so cool, the trailer. And then I started looking at some more gameplay. I was like, eh. So I don't know. I am interested in it, though. I can't remember what the name of that is right now, though. But anyways, Nex Machina, Nex Machina, is a twin stick shooter. And it's freaking cool, man. It's so cool. When you play it on easy, normal, and hard, I can't remember if there's a harder difficulty. I think there might be. I think there's either 3 or 4 difficulties. I forget exactly. But each of these game modes, each one of them is completely different playthrough. And as far as the types of enemies, I don't know, not exactly the types of enemies that you face, but how fast they move, as well as how often they shoot, and the patterns that they shoot in. And this is like a bullet hell game. So literally each difficulty you play is completely different than the other. And they also have this like on normal, if you get to the final stage and you beat it, you get a bonus boss or whatever. And then on the hardest difficulty, you get an even ultimate super extra mode Ultima boss on it, and that's a skill level I don't think I'll ever get for those games, man. It's nuts, dude. Just check out some gameplay on YouTube, dude. It's freaking crazy. It's such a cool game, though, and that's one of the. It's incredibly rare to come across a game like that where the difficulty actually changes the game mechanics. It's literally game mechanics. I don't think they even lower your health at all in those difficulties. It's literally just you having to learn to play it differently. And that's what I would love to see more. But and this was my point, is like, I understand why it doesn't happen that way. Like, I understand why more games don't do that, because as a preference, I would rather play on easy mode. I would rather experience those challenges without dying in one hit. For example, just Nex Machina, I don't remember them having that specific kind of Dark Souls-ish mechanic, you know what I mean? It was just harder on different difficulties. But I would love to have to learn the fights properly without dying so fast, you know. So that's why I can understand why more games don't exactly do those, change the game based on the difficulty you do. And I'm sure there are other reasons as well. Like, I have no doubt there are other reasons on top of that. That would be the main one for me, though, personally. Like, I'd be like, oh, dude, I really don't want to play this game on hard. And at the same time, the reason for that too is if I was playing a game that I really liked, right? And I knew in my mind, and I knew from what I read and everything, all the talk about the game, that the hardest difficulty was literally the best version of the game because of game mechanics. You fight different bosses, maybe there's a little bit more story to it, whatever, but mostly gameplay wise, game mechanics. Story too would suck to miss out on because I don't want to play it on hard. Like, I just don't want to. I don't enjoy getting killed in 2 shots, So I want gameplay mechanics to matter without murdering me in a half a second, Like, I love learning the design and the stages of different bosses or different levels, like, that's cool. I love that. That's like the best part about gaming, man, It's actually, like, now I think about it, like, part of like Mario Odyssey. Mario Odyssey was incredible, man, because just off the top of my head, it has been a while since I played through it. I played through it when it first came out, like, and I was shocked. I think now I remember this. I don't. It's not fresh, but that was the game that I called my game of my lifetime. Number 1 game of my lifetime. Like, I remember, this is how I felt about the game. It's been too long. I haven't played it in so long. I no longer freshly feel this, but I remember this. Mario Odyssey, game of my lifetime. And the reason for that is because it was constantly changing, constantly, like within each level too. There wasn't like one level where you did one thing the whole level. There was just, each level was always adapting, evolving, whatever. It was just incredible, man. And I could be overhyping, and I'm not trying to or anything. I will just never forget. The experience itself was so amazing, and it blew my freaking mind. And I was like, holy crap, I want more games like this. And it sure as hell was not hard. All right, and of course, we're talking Mario here, so there are certain things that can be hard and difficult. They have those extra challenges, there's certain moons or whatever collectibles you get there to offer a little bit more challenge and a little bit more difficult to reach and that kind of stuff, right? But just general gameplay, it was not a hard game to play. I mean, I probably died here and there or whatever, learning some stuff, but I don't remember it ever being overly difficult. I just remember it like all the way through, dude. I could not believe all the things that were going on in that game. There's so much stuff. It was truly special. Like, I was just like, holy crap. And that has nothing to do with difficulty. That's just gameplay, man. You know what I mean? So it just bugs the crap out of me in games generally when, like, I want to bump the challenge, sort of, but nowadays, like I was saying this earlier too, and throughout this recording, is nowadays, to me, dying in 2 hits is not a challenge. It's more annoying and completely unfun. A challenge to me is actually having to figure something out. Now, there's an interesting thing about this, because some stuff in games, like especially puzzles, I'm not going to get too deep into this for right now, but it is related to the difficulty. Like, some puzzles in games, they're just random. I love logical puzzles. I love puzzles that I can literally figure out by looking around or moving things around and whatever, without having to randomly end up accidentally pushing some crap that happened to work. You know what I mean? Like, you got to know what I mean. If you played like a lot of these games, like if you're as old as I am and you've been gaming a long time, I'm sure you probably remember stuff like that. Well, there's so many puzzles in games where it's just like I should not have to look this up on the internet. I should not need a walkthrough guide in a magazine. This is old school before the internet. I'd get these magazines, these walkthrough guides and stuff. I should now. It doesn't mean I'm against it or anything. I just shouldn't need it. That's how I feel. Like I feel like I should not need it. I feel like a good game to me is where I can naturally play it and naturally figure things out. And that's also a part of what I was talking about just a few minutes ago or so. Like I can understand why that's very hard to balance. When you, especially like even as a designer or developer, or whatever, like you want to make things challenging for your player, and sometimes even when you think you're challenging your player, like that you're gonna have players that are gonna play that and be like, this was not a challenge at all. And I think maybe those specific players that have been playing games as long as some of us or whatever, and they're just even better gamers than I could ever imagine to be one. Because that's the thing too. People are really competitive and they're far surpassed me. Like I'm a hardcore gamer and I am truly deeply passionate about video games, but I've never been like that competitive. Like for example, like Atari games or leaderboards, scoreboards, where the people the scores they can get are just like, that's impossible. But I think I can understand if a developer or whatever, a developer team is trying to address those specific players with their challenge, but those are, and I get it, but that's such a minority in the gaming audience. So it's just now, I'm literally just now thinking about that. I'm like, they should probably make their stuff a bit more. I get wanting to challenge your players, but some stuff goes too far. For example, it's funny just thinking about that. It just reminded me of Mario Maker. I don't know if you've ever watched Mario Maker streams or how many Mario Maker levels you've played. I remember I hated these levels. Okay, there's some stuff, man. I'd seen like there was a streamer I came across. I can't remember how. I think I was probably just browsing Mario Maker streams at the time. Came and got across this one guy who's just absolutely exceptional, and he would grind those impossible levels until I could figure them out. And it was very rare for him to actually give up on one and be like, you know what, there's just something too off here. But he grinded those, dude. I'm talking hours, man, just trying to beat like one single created level. And these are the insane levels. I don't know if you've seen them. Like people made some ridiculously stupid, impossible levels in Mario Maker. I haven't seen Mario Maker 2. Mario Maker was enough for me to lose my mind. I am interested in Mario Maker 2 just for the the fun factor of creating levels and stuff. But people would literally create levels designed to basically not be beaten unless you were just an insane ass player, right? You know what I mean? So we're talking about 1% of the players that would ever touch that game. All right. And I'm just saying this is just a number I'm making up at the top of my, but just as an example, right? Like I'm sure you can understand that. This is basically nobody's going to be playing through those levels and beating them. You know what I mean? Like it's going to be incredibly rare. Only the most super hardcore extreme player that just likes that kind of thing would do that, so. But your typical general audience is not going to do that. They will give up and they will hate the game for it. You know what I mean? So I don't know, it's just a part of it. Like I understand, wanting to do a challenge. Like I said, like for me, I just prefer, it's a preference. Sometimes if this is a trip too, because sometimes if I like a game enough and I get stuck on a really stupid puzzle, I get pissed as hell. I'm like, dude, because I would prefer to naturally be able to figure out things. I prefer it. It's just a preference, man. Like I want to be able to play the game and understand what the hell I'm doing and not have to go online or not check a guide. But if I really like a game And this is something I only learned in the last year or two for myself personally, because I used to give up on those games. I used to be like, this is a waste of my time. Screw this. I don't want to have to look it up. Screw this crap. I'm done. I don't want to play this crap anymore. And then eventually I hit some games where it's like, dude, I don't want to. I think I had to learn this for myself, because like I've quit games that I really liked because of stuff like that. Darksiders is an example. I originally played Darksiders many years ago, and some of those puzzles are just so damn stupid, man. Eventually, years later, I finally completed part one, and then I got into part two, and I was like, there's just so many puzzles in that. They're just nonsense, dude. It's so much repetitive, running around in circles for a million years before you finally hit that one switch or whatever. It's so damn annoying. And like I said, I hate having to look this stuff up. I can't remember which specific game like started switching me and I started looking stuff up. And I still haven't done this for Darksiders 2, because I'm just like, eh. But depending on the game, if I'm really into the game, I'm like, you know what? Fine. I don't want to shut this game off. I don't want to uninstall it. I do want to continue because I really like this game. Screw it. I'm just gonna look this crap up. And so now that's what I do now. I still get so pissed though. Like I hate having to look up how to get past a dumbass puzzle. Because I mean, it depends on the game and it depends on the puzzle. Like right now, if I encounter a puzzle where I immediately recognize this is something I don't want to waste my time with, I will go look it up. But sometimes, depending on the puzzle, I will spend up to 20 to 30 minutes trying to figure it out on my own before I go look it up. It really depends on the puzzle type and the game. Usually the puzzle type, some of them they're just such dumb ass bull crap that I go look it up. And you know what's funny? Almost every time, not every time, but almost every time I go look it up, it is something incredibly stupid. I'm not even kidding. Almost every damn time, it's something, just this one little thing you might have missed or whatever. Dude, that's why it pisses me off so much. It's not something I couldn't have figured it out. It's just some tiny little thing that's so easy to miss. That's what pisses me off. Oh my gosh, it just makes me so mad. But yeah. So, but the general difficulty of game modes, though, easy, normal, hard, stuff like that, it makes me mad when I switch a game to hard, and it literally just kills you faster. Because I would love game mechanics to change. But again, I was actually among part of this discussion. I also understand why they don't. I kind of wish, it kind of makes me wish they just put more effort into difficulty rather than health bars. You know what I mean? Because, there are plenty of general normal things that are in these games that we play that are, you call them challenging. Like I said, like there's a point you reach, especially when you played them all, where they just become kind of a process. You're just kind of going through the same thing that you're used to going through, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that at all. Not at all. If you like that game, it's great. Like I didn't start hating games that still play the same as other games that I like, and not at all. I just want to see more effort into the mechanics of boss fights, stages, specifically stages. And they don't have to be long and dragged out. They really don't. They don't have to be long and dragged out. Just don't have me repeat the same exact mechanic over and over again until that boss is dead. It's like, for example, I was talking about that one game earlier where, the first two stages of the boss fight were incredibly easy. They were cool to learn because it was something new each time, each of those new stages. Stage one, stage two, you learn, like, there's two different mechanics that you do to get past that stage. And then ultimate boss form, also cool because, whoa, that was epic. But then the health bar was way too large. Like, it was just like, you don't have to drag it out to give people different things to play and experience. You know what I mean? So I sort of understand that. I remember a part of the reason I read, like, just thinking about that, I remember there was a couple boss fights. I can only remember one specifically in The Last of Us Part 2. But they had a few boss fights. But I remember one, it was inside of an arcade, and it was this really super ugly mutated thing, and it wasn't like some hardcore boss fight, but it was a boss fight, and it went down fast. I wrecked that thing, dude. But it was also, while it was to me, I don't know if I got lucky, right? Like I might have got lucky, but I went through it so easily. Um, but I will never forget the experience, the event, the like. I think you fall through the roof or whatever. You land in this area of an arcade with the super crazy, epic, mutated, ugly thing, and then I just beat the shit out of it. But I'll never forget the actual experience because it was so cool. Like, it was a cool experience. It wasn't the fact that the boss was too easy or too hard. It was just this amazing experience. So that's a part of it too, you know. I I really want to see. That's what we need more of, you know. Like, if you like, every time I go and I fight a boss and it's just repeating the same process over and over again. It's not unfun exactly, but I'm just like, why didn't you change this? You know, like, I'm literally just repeating the same exact thing over and over again. Like, you telling me you couldn't have put like some kind of difference here? You know, like, come on. So my point, like, you know, like I said, you don't have to drag the boss fight out. Just give us some different options, give it different stages, and they could be quick. And in that sense too, I can kind of understand, maybe a part of it is the developer team or the whatever, they might feel that it's not worth the effort into all the work of making all these things, you know, part of that fight. But as a player, it is worth it. As a player, the experience is worth it. It is. You know, I have no doubt you have played those boss fights too, where I was talking about, where you know, they're still fun, they're still cool bosses, but when you're doing the same exact thing over and over again to beat that one boss, and it literally does not change, and you know, you drain the health down a little bit, and then you reveal the weak spot, and then you shoot the weak spot, and then you know, you ran out of time shooting the weak spot, and then we go back to draining their health again, and then you reveal the weak spot again. You know what I mean? Like, that's literally the same thing over and over again, right? So the boss fight is cool, the scene is cool, the combat is cool, like, it's fun, but like, that is not a good experience as far as the experience itself. Like, you know, it's still a fun game. That doesn't take the fun away if you enjoy it, but it's not a true experience, you know, if you're literally just repeating the same exact steps over and over again. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's a trip. So I kind of I don't know, man. I remember, like, oh, I mentioned this a little bit earlier too. Like, I didn't used to think this way. I remember there was a time, for years, dude, since I was a kid, because since I was a kid, man, since I was so young, I have always had, especially family members, you know, adults in my life, growing up, telling me, you should make games. And I was like, what do you? I want to play games. That's what I want to do. I want to play games. And only in the past year or two did I finally start feeling the opposite. I actually do want to make games. It's not an easy thing for me because educational wise, like, it's so hard to read up on that stuff and get educated. I'm an experienced person. Like, I learned by experience, and I would love to do internships for video game stuff, man, because at this point in my life, I'm just like, dude, that's the only thing I could really enjoy. An internship. I'm not even kidding, man. I don't care how many, I could do that for 10 years. I don't even care. I would love to do an internship, and if I was actually able to get in it, you know what I mean? Not some bullcrap internship, but like a real internship, hands-on internship, like getting in there and you know, being a part of it, dude. Oh, it'd be so incredible. I have so many ideas now. Like I said though, this is in the past couple years or so. Like, past couple years, man. I finally actually started having ideas. So for example, when I used to play games, I would have complaints. You know, I'd be like, oh, this kind of sucks, whatever. But now I'm like, here's what could have been better. Here's what could have been smoothed out. Here's, you know, I actually have ideas now when I play these games. I'm like, oh, this is what I would change about this. And it's not to change the game itself. It's just, here's how it could have been better. That's all. right? Like, it's not like, oh, this game sucks. I would do it so much better than this. This is how I would improve it. I have all these ideas all the time when I play the games. And it's just a trip. It's such a trip to have these thoughts going on in my head, because this is a very new thing for me, man. Like, I did not used to think this way. I'm telling you, it used to piss me off. It used to piss me off when people be like, you should make games. And I'm like, I just want to play them. Shut the hell up. I don't want to make games. I just want to play them. And then now I'm like, oh, you know what? I kind of do want to make games. Anyways, so I think I'm going to end it there for this episode. I think I said probably most of what I wanted to say. Thank you very much for listening. I hope you have a great day, and we'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.